Hey guys, it's Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, get comfortable. This is the fall October of 2020 edition of the Quantum of Conscience old fashioned radio show. Stoke your fire, get into your favorite old chair, put on your favorite mask, which is like a Linus from Peanuts blanket, making people feel all warm and safe and secure. Gather the family, and let's talk about the state of affairs in American idiocracy. I've been asked to do another edition of the CV Bizarro file, the endless oddities, impossible coincidences, bizarro synchronicities, impossible occurrences that could never happen unless reality is being laid down in some sort of script. I'm asked to do that again. The list grows and grows and grows. People around us, if presented with this list, would find a way to explain it all away. It's just like it's a gigantic coincidence. So we'll do the list, and we'll start off with discussing a little bit about what the new normal really means, which I touched on the other day, then get right into the list that grows and grows and grows. Before I start, I do want to mention there are two advertisements or two sponsors for this edition of the Quantum of Conscience old-fashioned radio hour. One you'll recognize as a long-term sponsor and supporter, Marco Rubio, South Florida Bubble Parties. The full commercial will be presented in the middle of this presentation to break up the presentation. It will be a talking commercial, the way Howard Stern used to talk about 1-800-mattress or whatever he used to do. But we have a new sponsor. It's Joe Biden Deliverance Movie Banjos. Joe Biden Banjos replicas from the movie Deliverance, which is a very interesting offer. I think everybody listening to me will be very interested in taking advantage of. Getting started, I want to tell a personal story, something that happened to me just yesterday. It relates to something that we see that everybody around us just thinks is absolutely normal, how most things in the world are getting worse, going backwards, and it's not 1975 or 85, it's 2020. Things should be improving. And even tech and certain elements of tech, they'll tell you how wonderful it is. But even that has become more confusing, more passwords to lose. Even that has regressed. And there's not too many areas in the society anybody can point to saying, look how wonderful this has become in the new century versus what it was in 1975 or 85. There's almost nothing you can point at, but nobody notices that. Nobody around us sees that as an issue or a problem. It's just normal. It's the best a modern society can do. So my birthday was early September. I've been watching this 32-inch little cheap piece of crap, and my mother and stepfather said, I think they actually feel bad because I haven't seen my mother other than running into her at a store, They haven't been to my house. They've invited me to their house. They live 7 minutes away. All of 2020, basically haven't seen my mother except running into her, buying something at a store. So I think they feel bad, and they said, look, go out and buy a TV. Tell us how much it is. That'll be your birthday present. Because we're going to be locked down again, and there's a whole lot more Netflix to watch. I'll take you up on that. I'll take you up on that. So here's what happened. Incredible. The experience just gets worse and worse and worse. The idiocracy gets worse and worse and worse. I don't like shopping, obviously, in this situation. It just, the whole feel of it, the mask. I rarely go into a food store unless I absolutely have to. But there's a Target down here in Exton where it's generally not packed. And the experience has been okay. And I'm comfortable in that store. So on Thursday night, I go down and I spend literally 90 seconds buying a television. Okay, 50-inch TCL, $299 on sale. Tell the kid I'll take it. He's like, literally, just as soon as I walk up to it, I'll just say I'll take it. To me, it's all the same. It all comes off the same Chinese assembly line. They're all 4K. It doesn't make any difference. Pam's like, aren't you going to Consumer Reports check it? No, I'm not. It probably all comes off the same Chinese assembly line. So it was a good experience. Kid packed it up. 10 minutes, I was out the door. Okay. Well, here's where it gets interesting. I spend hours setting it up yesterday during the day. Hours. because there's all these wires, and behind the TV is just cobwebs. I pull it out, I vacuum. The TV stand I have is too small, so it doesn't fit. I have to cut wood to make a jury rig TV stand so it'll fit. Then I was too small. I had to do it again. It just was a long, long process. Finally, I get all the wires and everything, all the old VCRs back there and crap like that. I plug the thing in, and it's cracked. You illuminate. You didn't notice. I illuminated, and it's just cracked like lightning branching out. I'm going, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I call up Target. I'll get into the CV oddity list, guys. This will just be another few minutes. This is the old-fashioned radio show. Just sit back, put your feet up, grab a beer, relax. I call Target, and there's a minute of English, and then you have to sit through a minute of Spanish. It's not like push 2 or anything. A minute of I'm not going to even try to imitate what I heard, but I'm like, was I supposed to have hit a button? No. A minute of Spanish, and then it says for a department, press whatever, electronics. I said would happen. They said, okay, bring it back. So I can't put all the box and packing back together, the styrofoam, the cardboard. I just throw everything in the car. I go down there, and the customer service people are pretty nice. Oh, we see you just bought this. Obviously, you didn't do it. They just made me put it in the box. They didn't make me put it in the styrofoam or anything. It was relatively painless. Maybe 25 minutes, I have a new TV. Come home. Now it's, 5 o'clock yesterday, 5:30. And get everything ready, plug it in. It's cracked. 2 in a row, cracked. Now this one wasn't as bad. The inside was cracked, and the screen's like all warped and bubbly once you plug it in, and the lights, it's just a mess. But you couldn't tell until you plug this one in. The other one I should have been able to tell because the front was cracked. So I go back. I said, to have any sway down there, I've got to go right back there. So 25 minutes later, the Target's just 4 minutes down the road. I go in there, and they see me coming, and they're like, yeah, the second one was cracked. So it's some of the people I dealt with, but the manager I dealt with was doing something else. I'm there for literally 45 minutes because, sir, they should have given you a second receipt. When you took a new I said, they never gave me a new receipt. They just gave me the same exact product. They said, keep your original receipt. Well, we can't ring you up for a new one unless we have the second receipt. We have to go get the barcode, so we need to find the TV. So they send people. I said, I was just here. I don't know. 25 minutes ago, I was just here. Go find Sharon. And they're looking all over for the TV. They need to get the barcode from the TV itself. I'm like, what? So I'm standing off to the side, customer service with my mask on. All this time's going. I mean, finally, I said, I don't want that. I don't know, some Chinese crane dropped the whole batch load of these MOFs, these TCLs or whatever. They all got dropped into the same pallet along with the rubber dog shit and the Olympic weights. They all got mixed around together. I said, they're all probably broke. I don't want that. I'll take well, sir, we have for a little bit more. There's an LG. I said, fine, just give me another brand that didn't come on the same Chinese pallet where everything got dropped. Probably crane dropped it probably from 50 feet up, and y'all tried to cover it up. I didn't give him a hard time. I know this shit can happen. I used to work for Silo, which was before Circuit City in the Philadelphia area as an assistant manager. So, but it was the second time was forever. And then I finally, I get it home. And then of course it was different feet and it didn't fit the stand that I made. So I had to make a new stand with wood with my table saw. It was just anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But finally I plugged the thing in and it wasn't cracked. It took me like 30 minutes for the thing to find the internet. It was an absolute Matrix nightmare. But the whole time I'm saying, hey, at least I didn't get any horrible news today. I didn't get a call from a doctor saying this is okay. This is a Matrix day. Laugh at it because it was absolutely unbelievable. And during this time, I'm thinking, is this the new normal? Not that every TV is going to be cracked, but just this sort of experience with life. Is this the new normal? A couple videos back, or last video, talked about new normal actually being a reduction in what a human being is, a reducing in frequency. A human being not expecting much of the world, expecting that they'll be just running around doing idiocracy errands all day long, not questioning authority. A reduction or an idiocracy of a human being is part of a new normal, but the new normal probably hits on a lot of different fronts. There's this weird thing going on with time that many of us have talked about or commented about, that we just don't have time to do anything. And Matt, you said it was your birthday. You turned 50, and things seem to be moving faster. I'm taking that into account, of course. I don't have time to do anything, and there's just 4 cats here. I mean, it don't take up that much time. I mean, it's just, when I make a talking video, I can do that relatively quickly and efficiently. If it's just my face versus me trying to put together clips and segments and things like that, which takes me a whole lot longer. But I don't have 3 or 4 kids. I don't know how people find the time. There's something weird metaphysically going on with time. I really believe that. I really do. I can't speak any further to it because I can't put my finger on it. But the new normal is multifaceted. A reduction of the frequency of a human being, this constant idiocracy where, 2 TVs in a row are broken, and just everything that can go wrong with dealing with certain vendors will go wrong, and running around and additional steps and, more passwords. I don't know, it's just a constant complexity, or the de-evolution of society in general goes with the de-evolution of a human being. Transitioning into the C thing, a very interesting comment when I had floated the potential relationship, or it's almost guaranteed, a relationship of some kind between the skies being very clear, at least over the Northeast. There were a lot of people that said, Matt, Southern California, certain parts were getting totally chemtrailed. And, I'm aware it's not just throughout the United States, but a lot of people did say, Matt, my experience has been more like yours. The skies have been much, much clearer since this started. And most people do see a relationship between the skies being clear and what they're trying to impose on us with the C thing. And one of the most interesting comments, I forget the commenter's name right now, I apologize, but it was about, people try to wise Matt up on, Matt, you have to understand the problems with germ theory, Matt. It's a detox. You can't spread this stuff. And I'm open to all of that, of course. I haven't totally jumped on board with all of that, but I'm open to it. But there was a lot of merit in what this person said. Person said, well, Matt, these flus, it's a body's cleansing. It's a reaction or a detox to anything harmful in the environment, a poison, a toxin, something in the water, something in the air. So the detox happens when the situation ends. Like a heroin addict going through withdrawal, maybe a bad example, doesn't go through it until the heroin is cut off. So a lot of bad things in the air, a lot of bad things with the chemtrails, not just that they're out to poison us, but there could be, nanoparticulates or whatever is in these chemtrails, that they're doing it for a reason. Well, in a lot of the country, the chemtrails stop. So the body then says, "Oh, we're coming out of this poison era is ending, and things are regenerating very quickly. The forests are getting a little bit healthier. The lakes, rivers, and streams are getting a little bit healthier. The swans are returning to the canals of Venice. Whatever, and the skies have been clear, at least in the Northeast." So the person said, in many cases, this can trigger the detox or the flu-like symptoms. So meaning the ending of chemtrails in certain regions can actually trigger the flu-like symptoms, which of course they'll point to and call C. But is that the whole purpose of chemtrails? No, but there's probably a lot of other things they're accomplishing, or what we're trying to accomplish with it. But this could be one of the things. One of the things. It's just something to think about. I thought was very interesting. The skies have been so blue over Philadelphia. If it would trigger a massive detox, we'd all know a bunch of people that are sick, and we don't know hardly anybody that's sick. But nevertheless, when I read the comment, they're trying to put the relationship together between the blue skies and the sea thing, it was a unique way to at least put the relationship together, and we'll build on it from there. Okay, to start the C Bizarro Oddity list, it's just a section from the book that just gets updated and updated and updated, and it was absurd in April. It's beyond absurd now, and it's just simply impossible that anybody could just throw all of this out as a coincidence. It's absurd. So I'm going to read part, but for most of these sections, I'm just going to talk it through. everything in the control structure of this world comes out through symbolism. As Levette says, they absolutely, the way they do business, directly with your subconscious, directly communicating to parts of you that you're not even aware of in the frontal lobes. It's done through symbolism and the dumb symbols we all wear on our shirts, like the Nike swoosh and all that. And we pay for the privilege of wearing their symbols, if that makes any sense. They should be paying us, but whatever. So we know corona means crown, and that is linked to the sun. So I can't say the word. I'm going to say C. When I say C, spell out the whole word, O-V-I-D, spell it all out, say the whole word. So C19, 19 is the tarot card of the sun. What a coincidence. The sun tarot card, get this, is a trump card. Oh, what just happened the other day? Oh, sure. Yeah, see, this is how 100 Monkeys works. Or it might be 1,000,000 monkeys in the truth community. Because I had just sent an email to 2 friends saying, if you have what's our hobo code for panties-demic? When you have a panties-demic, shouldn't there be sick people, guys? Just want to ask you two of my friends, just want to ask you, shouldn't there be actually sick people? So I'm sending that, and per the way the 100 Monkeys works, or the 1,000,000 monkeys in the truth community, we're all kind of on the same page. Many people say, Matt, I was just thinking about what you covered, and people will email me, and I'm like, I'm just about to cover that. So probably millions of people in the last few days are probably saying to people, don't people actually need to be sick? So they're withholding the Trump part of the story, and of course, he becomes tested positive or ill. Again, I just heard the headline. I don't know if they're showing him in bed with a thermometer in his mouth, or I don't know what's going on. I don't really care. But they needed that as part of the story. They needed to put that out at the right time. Just when millions of people start asking their friends, don't people need to be sick? So then you make the president, then that just cements and solidifies in the minds of all the people how real it is. It's just in an analogy. People keep telling us about this alien invasion. There's an alien invasion all over the place, and people keep looking out their window, going, "There's no aliens here." Yell over the fence to their neighbor, "Don, have you seen any aliens? There's supposed to be a big alien invasion." "No, I haven't seen any aliens. Nobody's seen any aliens." But on the news, they keep telling us the aliens is the C thing. They keep telling us it's a big, huge alien invasion. But I drive for a living. There's no aliens on my whole route. So everybody starts saying we don't see it locally. Then the news story comes down that the president has been alien abducted. And then even though people still don't observe any aliens in their own community, the president's been alien abducted? Oh, I'm going to stop asking questions. This shit's absolutely real. So and then again, maybe it'll take a month or two for people to start asking that same question again. Pete, you see any aliens? They're still saying we're being invaded. Then they'll drop in. Lady Gaga will then be alien abducted. It's just the same as what they're doing with Tom Hanks and all the other with the C thing. It's a kindergarten strategy from a psychological perspective that's actually working on these idiots around us. And speaking of aliens landing, I was going back and forth with someone on email, and we came up with a really good example as how the exact same information can be translated or interpreted in 2 completely different ways, with people taking completely opposite actions or reactions to the information. And I apologize if I already presented this when we talked about the My Cousin Vinny phenomenon of different interpretations of the exact same information. Miss Vito, same. Are you saying you're an automotive expert? No, he did. It's the same. So it's very important. So I might as well do it again. Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. The radio broadcast was talking about alien invasion, but most of the people listening knew it was Orson Welles, knew it was fiction, knew it was fun, listened, but 5% or whatever, or 10% or whatever it was, at least a group of people believed it was real news. And it was the same information, but one person was loading their shotgun and preparing to be actually invaded, like Signs with Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix and other people were just put with their feet up, listening and enjoying. It's the same broadcast. That's what they're doing. That's why I'm kind of slightly moving away from the two different realities theory, although I'm not taking that off the table. There is a degree of truth to that. But if they can have the same information coming in, we're on a completely different radio station. It's the same signal coming through, but in this bad example, the radio station, kind of the interpretation of it is completely different. That's how we see things so clearly, and our neighbors see it as something else when it's the exact same information. It's just War of the Worlds. It's the My Cousin Vinny phenomenon. And what that means is the prosecution believed that the Karate Kid actually did it. They weren't just trying to screw those two kids. They had all the evidence. All these people said they saw these two. You saw these two schmucks going into the sack of suds with the lime green piece of shit car or whatever. And of course, My Cousin Vinny, and he knew the Karate Kid didn't do it. But they had the same information until one thing came up. Positron. One thing changed it, everything. Are we going to get that one thing? Probably not. We have the CV list that I'm going to present is not one thing. It's 100 things. The problem is, through the new normal, lowering Andy, the masses down into a certain frequency, a frequency where they're just not able to use or employ common sense, a mind control, a download. Once you get human beings into a new normal lower state, then when people like us, people like me, offer positron, offer the CV Bizarro Oddity List, it's just not absorbed. Or at the very least, they're trained like Pavlov's dog to point at us like Donald Sutherland in the last scene of Invasion of the Body Snatchers and scream conspiracy theorist. When that's the case, and you've been put into a lineup and labeled as a conspiracy theorist, it doesn't matter how many positron facts and examples you could come up with. You'll never have the masses or the Andes move off the case, or what they've been mind controlled into believing from through succubuses like Nora O'Donnell on the evening news. So back to C oddity list. Yeah, it means the sun, trump card. It's a 19th card, 1919. Of course, 2020 is the year of seeing clearly, as in 2020 vision. 2020 is the Chinese year of the rat. What do rats do? Spread disease. And one of the contributing factors of the famous plague or Black Death in Europe. What a coincidence then that the rat is this year's animal. Both CV and plague started in Asia. Animal, year of the rat, I believe it is. And what is the anagram? It has one. The anagram, mix or reshuffle of the words. It's if the whole word, the beer word, and then virus, it's carnivorous. The anagram is carnivorous. Matt, that's some sort of coincidence. You know what? You would think so, but it's just not the way the reality does business. And if somebody's saying after this list, well, if it's not a coincidence, who could orchestrate all of this? And the answer is exactly. No one could orchestrate all of this. It proves the reality is some sort of a bizarro matrix and then some. It's part two. What sort of reality could pull all this crap off? Well, nothing you and I consider to be real, right? This is very interesting. This numbers section coming up has been updated. This is by itself mind-blowing. We have 20 more things. So some people, it's COV, spell it out. Some people believe it means Certificate of Jaccination ID. COV ID, spell it out. Certificate of Jaccination ID. But it might be this. Roman numerals in that word are CVID. Roman numerals. C is 100, a C note, 100. V is 5, like on your clock hand. I is 1. And D in a Roman numeral is 500. Okay? Now you spell the word out. O is not a Roman numeral. O is not a Roman numeral, just CVID is. However, if you can assign significance to O, how would you assign a number to it? The most logical place to go next would be ASCII computer language, ASCII computer language. It's just common in computers. It goes back probably to the 70s. And again, this absolutely makes sense if you're not following me. If you need to assign a number to O because it's not a Roman numeral, where would you go to get the number? Well, the most logical would be O as the number in a 26-number alphabet. But other than that, the ASCII code yields O being 79. You don't have to be following the exact numbers here. I'll sum it up for you in a moment. So O is 79. So you add up C note, Roman numeral, means 100. O is now 79 because of the ASCII code. V is 5. Add it up, you get 685. All right? 685, well, how do they present it on the news? How do they present the name of this thing on the news? They spell it out dash or minus 19. Well, 685 minus 19 is 666. Anybody surprised? I'm not. It's the way the reality does business. Okay? So when you add it up, it's always presented dash 19 or minus 19. Everything they do like this is for a reason. Like the roulette wheel. Add up all the numbers on the roulette wheel in Vegas equals 666. Of course, it's not a coincidence. Get this is the next one. If you add up all the numbers associated with the letters in Rona, like the beer, the whole thing, you get 66. C, A, B, C. C is 3. O is 15. R is 18. O is 15, 14. You get 66. So there are also, in Rona, the beer, there are 6 letters. So there's your 6, makes 66. Implement order 66 in one of those Star Wars movies. There's your another 666, another one. Now, if you think that's a stretch, the letter O, again, is 15th in the alphabet. O is 15th in the alphabet, which reduces to 6. So there's another way to make 666. Now, why did they need the 19 in the presentation of Ovid-19? Why did they need that? It's not a coincidence. 19, A is 1, 9 is A is 1, 9 is I, AI. Ovid-AI. A is the first letter of the alphabet, I is the ninth. So in this regard, we have the name essentially being 666-AI. You think that's a stretch? You don't know how the reality does business. And 1 minute for anybody struggling. What is it that the reality does business? What the hell is this guy talking about? The minions, the jerks on TV, anybody you know on TV or in a book, the Queen, the Queen, Donald Trump, Lady Gaga, total jerk-off handjobs like Henry Kissinger, Soros, these guys, right? They don't make the ultimate decisions. They're messengers, minions, and jerks on behalf of something else. Well, what's something else? We don't know. We've pondered it many times in the past. Christians would call it Satan. People have different opinions. There's something else that's on behalf of the entire reality that's meant to lower or corrupt a real spirited human being, okay? So don't say they like the minions that designed the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. They're minions. They execute or implement the orders. Probably not smart enough to even do 1/1000th of what's happening now. Okay, here's another one. The Ovid thing, say it out, okay? You could also look at it as the first letter is C, or C with the eyes. C, the rest of the word, Ovid. Go see Ovid. See Ovid. Well, who's Ovid? What's Ovid? Well, Ovid is the famous Roman poet who lived during the time of Augustus, during the time of Christ. So what does that mean to see Ovid? What do you find? Well, you find that his most famous work, what a coincidence, is Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. If you go and see Ovid, what's his most famous? Metamorphosis, and the word means to transform or change into something completely new in form or nature. To become something completely new in form or nature. The reduction of a human being, the reduction in frequency of Andy, the new normal. How interesting is this, right? Is this part of the new normal? Go see Ovid. Yeah, Metamorphosis. Something on a new lower frequency is more susceptible to suggestion and control at the very minimum. Guess who's a central figure in Ovid's play? Morpheus? Morpheus from The Matrix? got his name from that. That's where Morpheus from the Matrix came from. It's just, guess what? Happens to be God of dreams. Yeah, the dream state that Neo was in, living in the Matrix, thinking the Matrix world was real. Morpheus, that was the fat version of Lawrence Fishburne, but it relates back to Ovid's play, Metamorphosis, becoming something completely new. You know, when Morpheus says, "Welcome to the desert of the real." Whatever the hell, what the hell does that mean? A fat Lawrence Fishburne, welcome to the desert of the real. There ain't no desert. It's just a Matrix at the Nebuchadnezzar. It's just frayed sweaters with no sewing kits and some slop in a bowl that's supposed to taste like something called tasty wheat. You know what? The Wachowskis couldn't secure permission to use the name of a real cereal? Just to stray a bit about the Matrix. I mean, you know, one coincidence in this reality leads to another string of tying Kevin Bacon coincidences together, but it's Kevin Bacon times a billion. They just go on and on and on. You could link everything up in this ridiculous script. So who directs The Matrix? The Wachowskis. How are they known? They're known. They're just known as the brothers or the Wachowski brothers. Okay, the Wachowski brothers. That's what people would say. Brothers kind of always went with their name. And the name brothers absolutely has to do with gender. What a coincidence that these are the two in Hollywood that have a name linked to the male gender. These are the two that become females. And not one of them decides to go off and do this to the same probably doctor that fixed up the Joker in the first Michael Keaton Batman. But they both become women, Lana and Lily Wachowski. So look at this irony. The Wachowski brothers. See, brothers goes with the name, and now the Wachowski sisters, brothers and sisters. I mean, so the directors known as brothers now become the sisters. Come on. And if we think the Wachowskis wrote The Matrix, you've got to be kidding me. I'm sure they directed it, but the script came, in my opinion, from the very top of the creepy control room where Jared Kushner serves his crimpets. The Wachowskis didn't come up with this. People are still analyzing The Matrix and finding things even 20 years later. And don't tell me about that Sylvia woman, whatever, running around saying I wrote it and the Wachowskis stole it. It's another sidebar distraction for idiots. She didn't write crap. And for anybody struggling or anybody new with where I'm going, The Matrix is like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It contains, if you read between the lines, a truth as to the metaphysical nature of reality itself. Doesn't mean everybody comes out of a pod and the architect of the machine world is completely real, but if you interpret it away, there is as much truth in the Matrix as anything else. It came from the very top of the creepy pyramid. Didn't come from no Sylvia woman running around doing the talk show circuit about how her lawsuit is coming through against the Wachowskis. No, no, no. Continuing. These bastards love the number 19. Of course, back in that Tuesday, 2001, we have that number of hijackers. We have that number of hijackers in that fake story. We have Ovid, C. Ovid-19. Same number. We have recently the Atlas Comet. The Atlas Comet they talked about with 19 designations. 911 embeds the 19 backwards. 9-11 was 19 years away from the next gig. Ovid-19, 19 years away, 19 years separating them. The end of World War I and the signing of the Treaty of Versailles was 1919. They got 2 19s out of that one. They got double bang for their buck. They were very happy about that. Of course, the Treaty of Versailles to end World War I, that was done in, of course, the Hall of Mirrors. You surprised? Me neither. And, of course, the license plate of Archduke Asshole Ferdinand's car that started the whole thing, license plate codes the exact armistice end date. Yeah, right. That's real. That's possible in a normal world. So the year 2020 is really when the book 1984 played out with the destruction of natural rights. 2020 minus 1984 is 36 or 3 sixes. So let me repeat that. 2020 is when many of us noticed that the book 1984 is basically real. If you subtract them, you get 36 or 3 sixes. which isn't the number of Satan or the devil. Per the Bible, it's the number of a man. Talk about that as soon as we can, if not in this video coming up. Okay, let's start moving through the list a little bit more quickly. There, they tell us roughly 7 billion people on Earth. Yet, who's the face of the man, that wonderful human being and his foundation leading the fight to get everybody Action Jacksonated, to protect it from this thing? Who's the face of it? Bill Gates. He's the face of it. Now, it wasn't working out so well, so he's kind of gone away. But for months, of course, he's been the face of vaccines. Bill Gates has been for years, right? So what a coincidence that the face of this virus is also the face of computer viruses. And who's the one guy, more than most people, maybe not as much as Zuckerberg, but he's up in the top 5, who's the one guy that stands to gain the most if people stay at home, distance, and then just interact with each other virtually? Bill Gates. What? Right there, just those string of coincidences, you're already at 1 in a million. And we're just getting started. But people around us just think everything is real. I mean, how ridiculous does the whole scenario have to get? What if I can knock on my neighbor's door and say that, did you know Dr. J was a real doctor before joining the New Jersey Nets? Would that get anybody's attention? He had a little practice, Dr. J did, Julius Erving. He had a little practice like Doc Graham in South Philadelphia. Those people didn't know that. I mean, you want another example? What if Mr. Wrigley, the original Wrigley's Field, the gum, those green sticks of gum, I don't even know if they have them anymore. My grandfather used to always give me one in the 70s. What if Mr. Wrigley died of gum disease? That's like what's happening now with Gates, the face of computer viruses, is the face of a real virus. What? Mr. Wrigley die of gum disease? Would that get anybody's attention? This is a script of some kind. Okay? What if Mike Trout, the most richest baseball player, what if you learned tomorrow he died in a restaurant, he choked on a trout bone? Oh, that's just normal. George Michael, who's known as his most famous song is without a doubt Last Christmas. That's his most famous song. I don't care about Careless Whisper or any of that, but Last Christmas is played throughout the world at Christmas time. People that don't know who George Michael and Wham is know that. Then he dies on Christmas, and I think his sister died on Christmas too. Yeah, there's no script running here. We're just conspiracy theorist jerks. Give me a break. The biggest conflict of interest in the world should be Bill Gates, but he's the face of it. Let's move on. Okay, let's roll through these more quickly. What are the chances that the Netflix series Pandemic would be released the exact week the CV was putting about 40 million Chinese into isolation and lockdown? Just came out. Oh, that's just coincidence. They released Pandemic on Netflix, January 2020. And then right about the same time, the Canadian TV show Quebec in French releases Epidemic. Yeah, it's just a coincidence. What are the chances that the Netflix series Explained would feature a title of the series in one episode called The Next Panties-demic on November 7th, 2019, almost the exact time the supposed first cases were being reported in Wuhan? Yeah, just another coincidence. The episode actually said wet markets like those in China are a factory for a new disease. Really? A wet market in Wuhan is what they say where it came from? Let's move on. This is a joke. What are the chances the Amazon Prime series Utopia would come out this fall, right now, and be talking about unprecedented wildfires, virus, vaccine, and flu when the U.S. is in the middle of unprecedented wildfires, vaccine, and flu, vaccine issues? It just came out like they filmed it last week or something that hadn't been in the plans. What are the chances NASCAR ran about 10, 11 races, something like that, before you heard about any team driver or manager or pit crew chief? You heard of anybody getting the C thing. But the first guy, right about 10 or 11 races in, the first guy that tests positive, that gets it, happens to be the most famous driver in the world, Jimmy Johnson. It's just their most famous guy. See, they did that to get the headlines maybe? Or you're just a conspiracy theorist. If it was some driver nobody ever heard of, then that wouldn't have got. That's like dropping to Donald Trump. What happened yesterday with him? They just did that with Jimmy. What are you saying, Matt? Jimmy Johnson didn't really. Well, maybe I'm not convicting Jimmy Johnson. They might have come to his door and said, we have to test everybody weekly. Well, you tested positive. How the hell would he know? Well, what do I need to do? Just stay in the hotel room and you'll probably feel great. So you're probably asymptomatic. Just stay in the hotel room for a few days, Jimmy. I'm not saying he's evil and in on it. They probably told him he tested positive. He probably believed it too, like all these other idiots do. But what are the chances? It's like the Michael Jordan of the NASCAR world is the one guy that gets it. Although at this point, there's some other stories of lesser people, but he was the first one, so the headlines could be made. What are the chances a major worldwide news story, the major worldwide news stories, one of the biggest stories in the world, the one that preceded the C thing, was Kobe Beef Bryant. Kobe Beef Bryant. That was the one that came right before. And what are the chances that he's buried in a town in California called Corona del Mar? Yeah, just a coincidence. What are the chances that a Dean Koontz book, The Eyes of Darkness, from 1981 would feature a Chinese military lab in Wuhan, the same province that this thing supposedly came out of, and it creates in the book a virus bioweapon that gets into the population? The biolab really exists today, called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The V in the book is called Wuhan 400. We could just go on and on with just The Eyes of Darkness, but we've heard this, and relates to us several Simpson episodes about the house cat flu. And it just goes on and on. Could do hours and hours on these impossible coincidences. We're just touching on the major ones. What are the chances a TV show called The Dead Zone in 2004, in an episode that was actually called Plague, eerily predicted the circumstances around this very CV outbreak? And in the end, guess what the cure was? Hydroxychloroquine in 2004? That was the cure. Yeah, they just recycled that back into the script. Some 2-bit TV writer must have just known that it was a possible cure. He should have won the Nobel Prize for medicine, but no, he barely got his Dead Zone episode published with Anthony Michael Hall. Are you kidding me? Anyway, of course, it references China and SARS, the episode, and for some reason, all this stuff has to come from China. A weird, creepy part of the script, but nevertheless part of the script. What are the chances that 1,300, of course, they love that number. It's all of the occult. 1,300 corporate CEOs resigned 12 months leading up to this big C thing. But, Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, Gates, and the other billionaires, they've increased their wealth by $250 billion. Okay, we'll get to that one. What are the chances that there's a Matrix comic book series called Series 2? It was written, I believe, between 2000 and 2002. It might be 99 to 2002. In that period, a long time ago. Matrix comic book Series 2, there is one episode where there's a young girl seeing a psychiatrist who he says she has a case of coronas. Yeah, like a six-pack? No, that's what he says in the Matrix comic book. And it's not Little Red Riding Hood or whatever. It's The Matrix. There's enough reality delivered in the Matrix video game and the movie. Now we have this. She has a case of coronas and she'll recover. Yeah. What are the chances at the start of the movie Tomorrowland, passengers are dropped off at, I don't know if I can even keep saying this word. They're going to, whatever, Corona Park. It's in the movie Tomorrowland. Corona Park in the movie. That's where they're dropped off. But see, it's not, well, Matt, this word is common. It's going to come up. But look at the title of the movie. Don't miss the nuances. Tomorrowland. What are the chances there is a 20-year-old interview of a very old man who was on a troop ship going over to World War I? So this is a long time ago. The interview took place. He would have been in his 90s at that time at least, or close to 100, about the flu that took over his troop ship on the way over to World War I. He's saying how a big percentage of the crew is dying, and they haven't even gotten to the battlefield yet. And when the interviewer asks the older gentleman, what was the name of your ship? Do you remember the name of the ship that you used to cross the Atlantic? Yeah, he says, RMS Corona. clearly says RMS Corona. That's what he says. And the person repeats the name. And again, the person repeating the name doing the interview knows nothing about what's going to happen in 2020. Upon doing further research, you find there was an RMS Caronia, Caronia. It was retired in 1933, and it was actually the first ship to deliver an ice warning to the Titanic. Caronia, but the gentleman in the interview clearly says the name exactly as it's on the news, exactly the same as the beer. I don't even know what to say about that. Let's just move on. It's just, this stuff is incredible. It never ends. What are the chances the movie Space Jam, starring Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan, would present a scenario in 1997, Space Jam 1997, where the NBA season is canceled due to an illness? That just happened for real. The NBA season was canceled originally back in March because of what's happening. Well, there's no precedent of it ever being canceled before. A player strike doesn't count. So the one time in history it's really canceled, it's from this. And the one time any movie ever references the NBA being canceled, it's due to the same thing. Okay. What are the chances that the logo of the Tokyo Olympics is very similar to the animated graphic of the CV thing that they've shown now, 400 billion times on the news? And as it's shown, it's meant to be shown. It is all by design. That is symbolism. It wants your subconscious and unconscious, the mind, to constantly focus on it. Even if you're in the frontal lobes of the thinking part of the brain has learned to ignore it every time of the 400 billion times they flash that damn ball up on the news. All by design, which is being completely executed to perfection by the minions without the minions at the local level or the local news being in on it. An evil genius beyond comprehension. What are the chances that a psychic who typically was on the Montel Williams show years and years ago, her name was Sylvia Brown, she had a book called End of Days, 2008, and she predicted a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs. And the prediction year, 2020. I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're only going to need one. I mean, here we go. Next one. What are the chances that we have the Umbrella Corporation of the Resident Evil video game being the same logo as a real Chinese bioweapons lab in Shanghai? It's the same logo. The colors are a little bit different, but it's the exact same logo from the video game Resident Evil. What's the topic of the Resident Evil video game? A bioweapons issue that leads to a zombie apocalypse? That's all. The shape of the umbrella looking down on it is exactly the same as the real weapons lab. The color pattern, again, is different. What's the name of the operation in the video game Resident Evil? Raccoon City. It's spelled Raccoon, 2 C's, 2 O's. So with the exception of one extra C, guess what that spells when you rearrange the anagram? Corona. Really? What are the chances the 1988 Japanese animated movie called Akira, 1988, it's either anime or animated movie Akira, would, number one, predict that Japan would host the 2020 Olympics and that it would be canceled due to a pandemic, predicted in a cartoon in 1988. Something completely unprecedented. It's never, by the way, just in general, just predicting the Olympics being canceled because of something like this, that would be unprecedented. But then it's the same exact city. You're already at 1 in a million or 1 in millions in terms of predictive odds or the chances of these things could occur. You're already at 1 in a million just here. If you combine everything I've already said, we're close to 1 in a trillion. When we're finished, we will be over 1 in a trillion in terms of probabilities. I don't believe 1 in a trillion can happen in a real world. Do you? Our neighbors do. Our friends and family obviously do. So just as a reminder again, there's been 2 massive news stories in the last year and a half. Massive. And they were back to back. One was Kobe Beef Bryant what happened to his helicopter, followed by this event. So there's only been really these are the two most massive headlines in the last 2 or 3 years or so. And here's, again, they just keep relating to each other. The two events keep relating to each other in an unnatural way. So in this way, you go to Google Translate and you type in the beer name, the Rona, type it in, Google Translate, then select Hebrew, and then you hit the arrows to translate it back. It translates back the Rona word, the beer word, translate back through Hebrew to Kobe, Kobe. But they just happen to be the back-to-back two massive news stories that hit the earth. Yeah. And they've always, it's not like Google Translate changed anything. These words translate into each other if you go back through Hebrew. It's about a 1 in a billion coincidence. What are the chances that world experts in pandemics and vaccines, Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security, others, they would run something called Event 201, a simulated drill ran in October 2019 about a panties-demic sweeping the world called, guess what it was called? Coronavirus. Yeah, they called it the same thing. October 2019 just predicted exactly what would come a few months later. I don't think we need to talk much more about this one. We could keep going for an hour just on this. What are the chances the biggest movie ever made or ever that came out of Hollywood on illness, sickness, virus, pandemic, the biggest movie called Contagion would foreshadow much or a ton of what is happening right now regarding CV? Contagion, 2011 movie. That was the fat version of Lawrence Fishburne, predicted basically exactly what's happening now. Both outbreaks started in China. The slogan on the Contagion movie poster, nothing spreads like fear. We don't have any spreading of fear now, do we? Now, who would say that? It also coined the term social distancing in the movie. The medical expert for the last 15 years on CNN, I believe he's still on CNN, his name's Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He's seen in the movie saying almost the exact same thing or presenting basically what he's saying every day now on CNN or wherever he shows up on TV, saying the same thing in the movie he's saying now, which is supposedly for real. I mean, what? What animal was supposedly linked the viral jump supposedly from animals to human? It was a bat that was linked in the supposed jump from animals to human. What was the new quota released in 2020 on behalf of American Samoa? Features a giant bat on the back of the American Samoan quarter. I don't know a whole lot about American Samoa, but is that what they lead with in terms of what they want to be known for? Their bats? Is that what you want to lead with? Not a whole lot of stuff you can put on the back of a quarter that represents your, quote, American territory or protectorate or whatever the legal status of places like Guam are. Is that what you want to lead with, your bat? That brings a lot of tourists. Or see, why would you go with the bat? I doubt that's really what they want to lead with. Would a coin representing Philadelphia lead with a guy serving you a soft pretzel who hasn't washed his hands all day, stands outside? You can put one and one together. Or would the back of a Philadelphia coin lead with Independence Hall or the Liberty Bell? See what I'm saying? In terms of the old Philadelphia soft pretzel vendors, I'm not talking about wash your hands because of this C thing. I'm talking about the mental image of a guy that pushes a cart around all day long, at least like they did in the 70s and 80s, the soft pretzel vendors, big silver cart serving you. He's outside all day, doesn't have access to a bathroom, uses the bushes quite often. Purell didn't exist. He goes into the bushes. There ain't no place to wash up. Then he hands you the soft pretzel. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Okay, guys, my producer's yelling at me from the other room and has been for 10 minutes. I'm not getting the sponsors in. These sponsors are very loyal to the program. They pay good money, and I have to get them in. I promised to get them in the first 30 minutes, and I'm way past that. My producer will literally shut this program down if I don't get our sponsor in. And it's a long-term sponsor. You know them. You love them, as I do. The first sponsor is Marco Rubio, or Senator Marco Rubio Bubble Parties of South Florida and the tri-state area. This note here says, now with a new location, Marco Rubio Bubble Parties now in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. note says, look for our fall billboard up and down Route 95 that features our new logo. You got to wear a mask inside the bubble party, but you don't got to wear no pants under the bubbles. What happens under the bubbles, my friends, at Marco Rubio or Senator Marco Rubio bubble parties, what happens under the bubbles stays under the bubbles. Thank you, Marco Rubio, for being a loyal supporter of this program. Back to our list. What are the chances when this thing broke March or April, the first big star, big name that would contract this thing would be Hollywood's number one or top five biggest Illuminati star, biggest actor, Lifetime Achievement Award of all the people that could have got it. It's Tom Hanks, right? Tom Hanks. What about Macaulay Culkin? Couldn't have gotten it. You know, a drunk, strung out Macaulay Culkin, or a messed up Corey Feldman, or just some of these people you've heard of, but you know, other people that played in the Lost Boys. But no, it has to be the number one Illuminati actor. Sure, just like Jimmy Johnson, the number one driver of all time for NASCAR, just happened to get it. You know, the guy that happens to be in the Da Vinci Code, Apollo 13, all those other movies that lead you down the path of a fraudulent reality. So then it gets worse, of course. Not just that. He has to show you that he's, of course, just like any modern actor would, typing on a typewriter. That makes sense. Yeah, we all use typewriters. And with the big CORONA, the big words spelled out of the Rona across the type of the typewriter, he's posing for pictures and tweets. And then he has a tweet that goes out saying, my wife and I were tested positive, and all we can do is play gin rummy. And my wife leads gin rummy by 201 points. Of all the gin joint numbers in all the world, 201 points. The number of Event 201 that predicted what would happen just a few months before. And then, we got to get back to typing on the Rona typewriter. And then they have a picture of Madonna a few weeks later, and she's in Paris. She's not sick or tested positive, but she's sheltering in place like a good little Illuminati puppet. And she shows a picture of her typewriter. And this is a Coronomatic typewriter. See, Bot, I'm talking about a typewriter. I'm not talking about anything that should be flagged with a banner below it. A Coronomatic typewriter. Now, I assure you, not only Madonna cannot type, she probably can't even write or read English. So that's also part of the ruse. Oh, look at this next one. There's more simulations, more predictive events. They just keep coming and coming. It's like that Energizer Bunny. What are the chances that a simulation was run by the Department of Health and Human Services from January to August of 2019 that tested the capacity of the United States federal government in responding to a severe influenza pandemic originating, and guess what? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're only going to need one, originating from China. Look up the Crimson Contagion. It sounds like a WWE wrestler. Look up the Crimson Contagion. Another predictive event. Anybody surprised? Me neither. Oh, look at this one. What are the chances that in 2018, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security hosted something called, Matt, you already talked about Event 201. This is something different. CLADEX. CLADEX. Hosted by Johns Hopkins in 2018, a pandemic exercise. The purpose was to propose national measures the U.S. could employ to combat a global pandemic. That's 3 frickin' pandemic preparedness exercises since 2018. 3. And you have one called CLADEX and one before, Crimson Contagion. They should battle each other or at least tag team together in the WWE. Introducing to the corner my right, Crimson Contagion paired with CLADEX. Are you freaking kidding me? And people believe this shit, point at us like Donald Sutherland creepos that had their body snatched. They were just conspiracy theorists. Sorry, folks, when you go close to an hour, you get a little giddy. What are the chances the movie that was considered to have piggybacked off Orwell's 1984, piggybacked in every idea and concept, great movie called V for Vendetta, 2005, what are the chances it takes place? Guess what? Guess when it takes place? V for Vendetta. I'll give you 3 chances to guess. You only need one. 2020. It shows a totalitarian regime taking control of the world, or at least what's considered to be the British part of the 1984 New World Order, because of a lockdown caused from the St. Mary's virus. St. Mary's virus. Of course, The Mask is the star of the movie. Right. What are the chances that the NBA star who made fun of when the CV was breaking out, made fun of the distancing protocols, and the reporters had to sit back from the NBA press conferences when the NBA was still going on? The guy that made fun of it because he went out of his way to touch all the microphones and say, ooh, spreading of germs or whatever. Rudy Gobert, oh, he's the first guy to get the CV. The guy that made fun of it, and they said, well, he shouldn't be making fun of it. It's serious. He's the first NBA player to test positive and get it. And then 2 days later, or just several days later, the NBA shut down. Yeah, right. And because we are into the new hour, the producer is yelling at me again to work in the newest sponsor. Perhaps our biggest and most important sponsor is Joe Biden Banjos. Joe Biden Banjos. Now, we remember Joe Biden as a young, aspiring actor playing himself in the movie Deliverance, playing a Appalachian inbred retarded boy in the Burt Reynolds movie Deliverance, 1972. You know, who could forget that scene with the young Joe Biden doing the dueling banjos? Remember that? One of Burt Reynolds' friends was dueling back and forth with a retarded Joe Biden. Now, in celebration to commemorate the dueling idiots on the political stage that just took place, we had dueling banjos, now we have dueling idiots. Biden will sell a replica of the exact instrument he used without any makeup in the 1972 movie Deliverance. He will sell a replica. Now, it's a real banjo that really plays. It's sprayed with the scent of a real Appalachia shanty or shanty apartment, complete with the stink of people that haven't taken baths ever in their lives, the stink of no running water. It's built into the banjo. It's one of the new features. Now call in the next 10 minutes, it says here, and they will throw in a bottle of anal lube to commemorate that most special scene in Deliverance that Joe wishes he could have played himself, but it was given to another actor. Joe went on then in protest to do politics. So after playing Joe's banjo, you'll be looking at your sister in a whole new light, just like Joe does little kids. Let's continue with the program. Which brings us to the most disturbing item on the list. Why would massive corporations like State Farm, just weeks after the March shelter-in-place orders, just weeks after, have commercials coming out using the words new normal in their ads? And not just State Farm, a lot of big companies. We're just weeks into something and they're calling it a new normal? How did these companies even produce the commercials so quickly? Shouldn't the commercial makers and New York ad agencies, shouldn't they be sheltering in place too? Shouldn't they be social distancing? Did they get a pass to continue to make their commercials? Maybe a pass labeled by that jerk Cuomo as essential workers, like the trash men? You know, to what is called the Illuminati, I guess the producers of anything that goes on TV is an essential worker. Because the entire purpose of this reality, from their perspective, is to guide the minds of the masses into the wrong place, to lower a human being down closer to the abyss, down to the pure satanic level of zeros and ones. So we can understand maybe like Domino's Pizza making commercials saying, hey, it's a tough time, and we'll get through this by not touching and putting our hands all over your pizza. But why are so many corporations, why were they using the words new normal? I mean, isn't this something we're just going to come out of just like everything else? Didn't even 1918 eventually go away? What are they talking about? So this is so disturbing and obvious to us. People around us somehow found a way just to explain this away. You know, where you have your pipe springs a leak and you call a plumber up and, well, shouldn't anything be fixed? Shouldn't any sort of flu season shouldn't it eventually go away? New normal? You call Ben Franklin Plumbing or whatever that company is, and he says, there will be no fixing of your pipe, sir. That's your new normal. That thing will spring a leak forever as long as you're in the house. There's no more fixing of pipes. That's the new normal. Like, what? Who took my reality and where did they put it? You know, how did State Farm know? Let's just say, whatever. How would they even know? It's an insurance company that sells life, home, and auto. A bunch of virologists on the board of State Farm, they would know the situation would evolve into a new normal? Why didn't they just say, hey, it's tough times. I hope you continue to buy our renter's insurance and our auto insurance. Why don't they just keep it simple? They had to make a statement as to the nature of what life would be going forward. See, to all of us, it just gives it away. But everybody around us doesn't seem to get it. This is why the original theory of a devolved Andy can't get it. It's not operating at a frequency to get it. It's the new idiocracy, which is the new normal, but in a slightly different way than the movie presented it. We've all seen this one, so we'll be very, very quick here. But how is it possible the original Captain America movie would have a scene in Times Square, 30-second scene, where behind Captain America would be, one, the name of the event itself. The Rona beer advertisement would be behind him in Times Square, coupled with basically something that looks just like the spiked ball that's presented all over the news. We don't know what advertisement that was, but the spiked ball was also in the image, as well as the mask, which was the long-term billboard for the Phantom of the Opera play on Broadway. So it had the three major elements of what's being presented now in a movie about America, Captain America, and it's not that. There were actually 4 or 5 other things in that image that most people don't even notice. There was a billboard way back left that said, "By George, we did it." It was supposedly from a nonprofit promoting leadership. "By George, we did it." "By George Bush, we did 9/11." Or "By George Washington, we pushed the fairy tale of fake freedom." You know, there are 10 other things of lesser significance in that image. Now, how that all came to be is not the purpose of this video. We've toyed with ideas that it is not all plotted, planned, and called in. There are other things related to the nature of reality itself at work here, and we will talk about that in the future. What are the chances that the CDC would post this job on November 15th, 2019? November 15th, 2019, just days before the news came out of China. Job posting. Public health advisor, quarantine program. Quarantine program? Well, nothing's going on. Well, for what? Oh, what they knew was coming? They always have to give it away. This is why there are websites for the Captain hook that were done before the event. I mean, they just have to do this. There's no mistakes. There are never any mistakes, guys. It has to be done this way. We'll talk about that some other time. We have talked about that. So the location of public health advisor quarantine program? For what? For what's coming? The location is we're hiring in every single big city in the United States. Let's move on. This is a fascinating one we talked for hours about. How is it, and it continues to this day, all these big companies, say with 500 employees or more, or any sizable company, is all in like perfect lockstep in terms of their message or how they're presenting this thing. You know, one example is, why does my phone company need to send me emails that relate to the Ovid thing? Like, why even mention it? You're just my cell phone company. Just provide the cell phone service and shut up. Let's say we're here during this time and we're doing. Well, it's constantly mentioned by companies that have no business in mentioning it. Why is my cable company talking about it? And, well, Matt, they're offering financial assistance, so they're going to – I'm not just talking about the companies that offer financial assistance because of the financial crisis or whatever. They just mention it. Is it completely out of the blue? Almost. Where it's just inappropriate that you should be mentioning it. I'll give you an example. You go to – I just want to get some weather, hourly weather on today and tomorrow, like AccuWeather.com. I haven't been out there for a few weeks. The last time I looked, they have a major tab on the homepage that says coronavirus, a major tab on the homepage right next to the 7-day forecast. Well, why do I need AccuWeather.com to tell me about I don't know by now to go to a federal website or CDC.gov or the ABC News with Plastic Man. I wouldn't know to go there. I need that information through AccuWeather. Like, there's the coordination of all this is not human. There's no other way to put it. There's no common sense. It's everybody operating per the wishes of what the reality wants and dictates and demands without everybody being in on it. And it's fascinating to think how this is possible. Like in the meeting of whoever the web designer is coming into other managers at AccuWeather, wherever they sit around their table. I think it's in Pennsylvania somewhere. And someone said, I have a note here. I'm the web designer. I have a note here that we should put a big tab of coronavirus right next to the weather, right as on our main tab. And wouldn't that guy push back and say, well, why? People, we're not in the medical business. They know to go to CDC or the World Health Organization. Why are we even mentioning it? We're in the weather business. Let's just provide the weather. No, Joe, we have to have that tab. Well, why? See, I don't even think these conversations even take place. I don't know how it comes to be that AccuWeather has a major tab for this. Why? Or every single thing I get from Verizon about a cell phone or whatever mentions it. Why? Okay, I understand when PECO, a Pennsylvania Electric Company, an Exelon company, when you call up and you have a power outage, by the way, they could address this somewhere else. When you call up and you have an outage and you want to report an emergency outage or whatever, you just want them to know you have no power and to fix it as soon as possible. They have to give you a 2-minute message about, we understand the C-virus is affecting a lot of people. And if you're in arrears on your bill payment, we will not turn your power. They say we will not turn your power off if you haven't paid your power bill. That's what PECO says. So first off, it's like, I just want to report an outage. Isn't there another time where I can learn about that? Like, is in a more appropriate time, like somebody that can't pay their bill could go to the website and look under billing to see what's available to them? Like, do I have to get a speech about that when I'm just trying to report an outage in the damn dark? But that being said, it's all this is another 3 hours we could do on this that just goes down another rabbit hole or branches into this topic. It's the creeping in of communism basically into this country. It all happens slowly. And this event right now is one major event we'll talk about this in the future, that's helping to accomplish it. Well, anybody yelling at this video, you should be yelling at me. It's never been a real capitalism. It's always been some form of socialism, communism under the guise of capitalism, under this false lady liberty and freedom and all the stuff they've convinced people with. But see, what happens is, everybody that can't pay their bill, now this will go on forever, in my opinion. You just won't have to pay your electric bill, and by law, or they just say they will not turn your electricity off. But people are greedy, and nobody wants to miss out on a deal. Well, if he's getting it, I need to get it. That's just the way the really idiot human minds work, even in the middle class. So people will say, well, wait a second. At first they won't want to do it. They'll say, I heard that you just stopped paying your bill. They won't turn your power off. And they won't do it initially, but then their neighbor will do it. Their neighbor will just say, oh, if I don't have to pay, why should I pay? And the neighbor will then just stop paying. So then Bill across the street or John across the street or Mary down the street or whatever will be like, well, he's not paying, I'm not paying. And there will be no moral integrity saying, I don't even see that's a soul contract. That's giving more of yourself away. We have to talk about this for hours in the future. This is a slow creep towards communism, but what Greg called a resource-based economy. And what Greg means by that, what Greg is saying here is now it's just about if you can pay for it, you get it. That's the way the world is. It's like, well, you can't turn this off or do this to me because I'm going to pay for it. And if I pay for it, by law, I need to get it. Well, they'll take that away. See, they want everybody to not pay their power bill over time. Well, if he's not paying, I'm not paying. Everybody then stops paying. But then it's resource-based. Society itself is resource-based. So they would say, okay, no, nobody has to pay for this anymore, but you need to take the Axe and Jacksonation. You need to have a social credit score of a certain thing. Oh, or you don't get power. You don't get certain services. And then so many years will have gone by, you'd say, well, wait, I'm willing to pay for it. You can't do that. Well, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter if you're willing to pay for it anymore. In the old days, if you're willing to pay for it, you get it. Now, see, you don't have to pay for it, but you have to do certain things. You have to play ball, or we'll just cut you off. So that's what they eventually want to evolve it into. and they're inhumanly patient. They will take 20 years to accomplish this. It's not going to happen overnight. That's why they ain't going to just kill us off. They're not just going to kill us off tomorrow as Nibiru rounds the moon. It's not going to happen. They're patient. Continuing with our list, with no more sponsors, what are the chances that there would be a 1991 dance song, Italian dance song, called The Rhythm of the Night? This is the rhythm of the night, it's horrible. But you look at the video, it's riddled with occult and Ovid symbolism. She's singing the same lyrics over and over, this little weird dance ritual in front of the sun, like an ode to the sun. Then a gigantic amusement rides behind her, but it's this big spiked ball playing the role of Isis or whatever she's doing, jumping around. They throw the tarot card, which is, I believe, the strength card. It's just riddled. And they actually put it in, the predictive nature of it, of what's happening now, they actually put in a 1991 2-bit dance song and music video called The Rhythm of the Night. Now, what's the point of presenting that, Matt? The point of presenting that is no normal reality could pull that off. It just, combined with all the other 1,000 things we're talking about, it's just, if you don't want to say we're in the matrix itself, just start calling it a dream. Start calling it Maya, an illusion that your spiritual self has agreed to come into. I mean, it's not, stop assigning it so much stock and credence and credibility. Stop thinking it's so real. Stop giving it your attention and your worry and it's a joke. Start treating it like that. That's all it deserves. Here's a news headline from July of 2020. Vietnam sends home or evacuates 80,000 tourists. Not 80 or 800. 80,000 mofos evacuated in July. Oh my gosh, did Godzilla rise up out of the sea? Or what was there? The moon was inbound and the collision point was Vietnam? What happened? Sent home 80,000 in an emergency evacuation? 11 people tested positive. 11 sick people that are about to die? No, 11 people tested positive for CV. So they evacuated 80,000 people. This is impossible in a real world. First of all, what's the common sense of it? With the whole world being taken down by CV, the whole world is struggling from this thing. They just thought they would avoid it with 100 international flights going every day, considering what a virus is supposed to be. They just thought they could avoid it. They never thought they'd have a case. So when they first got a few cases, they had to evacuate 80,000 people. Wouldn't there be a conversation after that and think, well, why didn't you think we'd ever get a case? Like, what's going on with that? It's just obviously, and they would never even make that decision, considering how corrupt and dirty some of these, quote, third world politicians are and business people. They wouldn't care who died. Oh, people are dying. We have to take the tourists out of here for their good health. If anything were real, per their nature of what they would want to say, they'd say, we don't care. Cover it up. If anybody's died, throw them into a ditch and say they were stabbed in the back. We don't want to. They would downplay it. They need the 80,000 tourists. Well, they don't in the New World Order. They were, I'm sure, very thoroughly compensated. But they would downplay it. They wouldn't evacuate and care about people's health, these corrupt Vietnamese officials. Of course not. Of course not. Just like, if somebody owns 5 certain types of restaurants in Chicago and they're a little shady, the first case or two of E. coli, they'd say, just downplay it. Don't call the health board, or don't just say it didn't come from here. They downplay it. Of course they would. But they're going to, in the interest of health, the ultimately horribly corrupt Vietnamese officials and board of business is going to evacuate 80,000 people because they just care. Who the hell would believe that? And what's wrong with the people around us? And here's one we already touched on. We'll do it quickly. The top world's billionaires had their wealth go up. What, Matt? 200, 300 million? No, their wealth went up. The top world's billionaires, like 7, 8 people, went up $250 billion. Their wealth went up $250 billion in the last 5 or 6 months during this thing, while supposedly the world economy is collapsing and 1 million small businesses have closed. Their amount of wealth just went up, where they could just basically waltz into any Central African nation and saying, we'd like to buy the country. What did you say? You want to buy what? We want to buy the country. Here's the $250 billion, and the corrupt dictator would take it. They didn't do anything. It just went up. It just went up per stock appreciation and things like that. So, I mean, when in a time when the world's economy is supposed to be melting down, and truly a million small businesses have closed. There's no doubt about it. You know, but people that don't see reality, like Nerdrotic, these people that do that cover Star Wars and movies and comic books and have no idea that there's actually a new world order that's planning all this. They just think it's just stupid executives at Disney and Marvel making the wrong decisions, dopes like Nerdrotic that just don't understand how the world works. I mean, but in terms of the comic book shops that he's talked about going under, they are going under, of course. Haircut places, things like that, going under, of course. But you know, in terms of when all this stuff's melting down, and you know, what would get the attention of your family, friends, and neighbors that something might be a little bit off with the current situation, or might be a little nefarious, or something just not quite right, something that lends a little bit of credibility to the conspiracy theorists? What would get their attention? $250 million increase in wealth? No, $250 billion increase in wealth. That doesn't get their attention. That's just normal in the middle of an economic meltdown. What if the CDC came out and said that, well, per the illness that exists now or a new illness in the future, there's only one way to cure yourself or to protect yourself. Use Facebook. The CDC, or the World Health Organization, actually came out and said the way to protect yourself is X number of Facebook transactions and posts. That will actually protect you from whatever's happening. You know, if they in the future, something that they might say this. And then Zuckerberg's wealth went up $200 billion because that only protection was actually clicking around Facebook. Would that get anybody's attention? Would our family, friends, and neighbors just go along with that as being completely normal? What if there was something in the future, a pathogen, and the only cure could only be shipped through Amazon? So Jeff Bezos' wealth went over $350 billion. Would that get anybody's attention? Or that's just normal? Matt, that's just capitalism. That's just, you know, the rich get rich. It's capitalism. Yeah, okay. I'll close with this section. What is Sweden in all this, and how come they had no masks or no closing of restaurants and businesses for the first 5 months? In terms of what's happening in Sweden now, if anybody knows, please put it in the comments. I don't know. You know, I don't follow it. Maybe they are starting to wear masks and they are starting to do certain things and act like the rest of Europe. But Sweden wasn't for real. And I'll keep this brief. Everybody, you guys know this. But there might be a few aspects of this might be a little different than your thoughts. So I'll do this quickly. Sweden didn't push back or anything like that. Sweden is so under the New World Order's dragon wing, such a little poster boy for the EU. Sorry if you're from Sweden, but your government is that. It's worse than this government. Just of course they would have bowed down and done exactly what the rest of the world would have done, except the AI supercomputer that's running a world simulation needs a control for a variety of different reasons. So in my opinion, and in the opinion of smart others, their AI simulations, it's not like they're just estimating what this group will do or what this group of Puerto Ricans will do or Irish will do or Italians in South Philadelphia neighborhoods. They're not estimating per groups. They probably have literally your exact straw man is probably taken account in the world simulation. Probably using your same name. Every post, every tweet you've ever done, every Facebook post, it probably all goes into the world simulation. They know what groups are going to do or what even in some cases individuals are going to do before they themselves know. And when you run a simulation like that through whatever creepy AI that they're not sharing with us, you need a control. You need a control like Sweden for whatever reasons. It just feeds information. And at the very least, if they need it, see, you might need to drop another shoe in the story. If you need to take the story to another place, then you make a case out of Sweden. And look how horrible it's getting in Sweden. And if they have to cause real illness in Sweden, maybe they're prepared to cause real illness in Sweden if they needed that to perpetuate the story. They'd say, look, they didn't go into a mask. They didn't do this right and that right. And they rebelled and pushed back. And look how horrible. See, they could be used. I'd be very wary in the beginning that people in Sweden were like, yay, we don't do this, or our pubs are open, our restaurants are open. Well, I'd be very, very concerned, because don't you think they're going to use you at some point as how the horrors of not complying can come to a group or to a country if you don't comply, maybe they won't do that. But nevertheless, it was used as a control of some kind in the AI simulation. It just needs a variety of all different scenarios for it to more accurately predict what the human being will do as it's devolved downward. In terms of what's happening in Sweden now, I don't know. And I'm just saying it doesn't really matter what's happening now. This is how it was used in the first 4 or 5 months. Maybe it's still being used the same way. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Thanks, guys, for listening, and I will be back soon. I've got a few videos that I definitely are in the works, and I'll try to do one tomorrow, Sunday. I'm not sure. This is so long. Might be Monday. Thanks.